I'm curious how like some of those initial conversations worked. So I get a ton of people reaching out like, "Hey, Mike, how should I approach brands, right? Do I send them an email? Do I send them a video, a DM? Like, do I send them a media kit?" What was your go-to approach to reaching out to them?
Right. So, and I think even on those comments that you were just making there, it's if you're making TikToks, there's so many things you know how to do. You know how to script a video, you know how to edit a video. If you're a YouTuber, you know how to make a thumbnail. And those are things where you go on a site like Fiverr and people are charging up to $80 to do those things, right? So, just like you were saying, may not be your long-term vision, but just to kind of make it real to you as a creator that yes, you can make money, one of the easiest ways to get started is doing that, right? So in terms of that process of outreach, so they had the email in the TikTok. It was really interesting because it's a great way to source people, but it's like the worst TikTok you could ever make, but it's fine because I think it paid off because now I'm making TikToks for them and their account's doing a lot, getting a lot more traction because they have someone dedicated. But I reached out. They had an application form, which was interesting. I think it was a sort of type form, and they wanted you to communicate what's your experience with automation, what's your experience with creating TikTok videos, and some ideas you had, I believe was the last one. I can't quite remember, but I think that was one, ideas on content. And so I filled out the form, I communicated my experience, which I think is a bit of an advantage, but also if you're someone who's looking to become the face of a brand, look for companies that fit in with what you already do in your day-to-day life, right? Maybe there's a pet company and you own a pet, so you can talk about all of your experience with uh, spending time with your pet, right? Anything like that. So for me, I could talk about my experience with automation, about how it's important, and I applied through that. They got back to me a couple of days later and we set up a FaceTime call because although I had some TikToks and I submitted the application, they still want to make sure I'm a normal human, if you will, especially if it's such a large company, they want to make sure the face of it is someone they can trust and someone who's going to help take a lot of the stress off of them from creating the content. And so we had a great call. I shared some ideas that I had. And from there, we were able to work out a deal to make some TikToks on their page.
I love it. I love it. Somewhat similar to how I got started with them. I know you mentioned like, think about the things that you're already using, the things that you have in your everyday life that you can incorporate, right? Like you leverage some of your previous experiences to land this gig. And so for me, I ended up working with them just because like one, I use their product all the time. It's like a backbone of my business. I have a ton of the Zapier automations going. And so I think it was probably around like 6 months ago. I made a couple videos with them, not even thinking too much of it, just like, oh, this is a cool product. I like it. Like my audience would probably like it. And those videos tended to do like really well. And I made a couple more and I was like, oh, there's something here. And then so I eventually reached out to them. I think I did it first through Instagram DM, then sent an email and just started that conversation, started to build that relationship. And eventually things, worked out to a longer term deal.